What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about diet. Now, I know diet has a bad connotation that comes with it. It usually has something to do with a program that lasts 2 weeks or 2 months, but actually lasts 2 days because you hate your life and you quit. So we're not talking about that kind of diet. We are talking about nutrition. We're talking about how we're going to be eating on this program. It's based in science and research, and it's very sustainable, so don't run away. Before we start, I just wanted to address some misconceptions that people have about diet. With the internet, it seems that everybody's an expert on diet, and it's usually because their sister's roommate's cousin followed some diet that was successful, and therefore must be the right way, right? Well, correlation does not equal causation. So, we are definitely going to be staying away from the fad diets, and I'm going to teach you something that you've probably never utilized before. And you're going to love it because it's awesome. So, you may have noticed on my client questionnaire that in the nutrition section I ask, do you track macros? Usually, I get, what the heck is a macro? And I get it, that's a very common question. It's really only in the fitness world that tracking macros is a thing. It's just really not for the general population. They've never heard of it. So we're going to break that barrier because everyone should know about it. It is so successful, it is so easy and effective. So we are going to talk about what macros are because, like we said, nobody seems to really know. And then we're going to talk about why we want to track them along with calories. Why don't we just track calories? And then lastly, we're going to talk about why you want to track macros, why it is awesome, and why it's going to be one of the main reasons that you're going to be so successful on this program. So to start out with, what's a macro? So macro is short for macronutrient. So there are 3 of those, and I'm sure you've heard of them: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. All 3 are very important, and they're the building blocks of food. So they're called macronutrients because we need them in large quantities. Micronutrients are things like vitamins and minerals, and we only need trace amounts of them. So, like I said, we need all 3. I know some diets limit or completely eliminate one of them, and we are not going to be doing that in this program. So just to cover them all in a little bit more detail, proteins are the building blocks of muscle. We need them, especially in a fitness goal to lose weight or build muscle or anything like that. Protein is key. We absolutely need an adequate amount of protein. You can get it from meats, egg whites, dairy. There's lots of foods that have protein in it. Next are fats. Fats are a little bit harder to explain why we need them. It's at a deeper level than it builds muscles. You know, it helps with hormones, it helps with your hair and your skin, but it also works on a very cellular level, so we won't get into it too much, but just know that fats are very important and we do need them. Last is the poor whipping boy, carbohydrates. They get such a bad rap, and it is so unnecessary. Carbs, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, breads, beans, oatmeal, those all have carbs, and fruits and vegetables are carbs. So I think that kind of makes my point a little bit. We need carbs. So if I'm saying that you need all 3 macronutrients, why are some people so wildly successful on, say, like the Atkins diet that completely cuts out carbs? I'm just going to say, if you're cutting out an entire macronutrient, that is a lot of foods that you're cutting out. So honestly, it would be hard to overeat on just proteins and fats. It's possible, but a lot of people are going to be successful just because there are less options of what to eat. It's not sustainable, and it's very, very difficult, and it's not very healthy for your body. So we're going to be eating carbs on this diet. Now that we know what a macronutrient is, why do we want to track them? Why not just track calories? So here's a question. If you are only tracking calories, you're not tracking macros, and you put yourself in a deficit, will you lose weight? The answer is yes. It's the basic laws of thermodynamics. If you eat less than you burn, you'll lose weight. If you eat more than you burn, you'll gain weight. Calories in versus calories out, it's a very basic law of nutrition. So, I mean, that is a good thing. You know that you can lose weight, but the question is, what are you losing? The problem is you're losing a mixture of fat, the good part, and lean tissue, muscle. You do not want to be losing muscle. This is a very negative thing. Muscle is extremely important. If we're just looking for purely aesthetics, if you're overweight and you want to lose weight, if you're just tracking calories and you're in a deficit, you will lose weight, but you're going to be losing muscle tissue. So you'll end up as what they call skinny fat, in the sense that your body fat percentage will be even higher than it was to an extent based on the ratio of lean tissue to fat tissue. It's really not a good plan. Muscles are important in preventing diabetes. It burns more calories at rest. So when you're just hanging out, the more muscle you have, the more calories you're burning. So it's very important. Now, most people don't get enough protein, particularly women. They're like, oh, I had chicken for dinner. That's not enough. That's not even close. So when you track macros, you know exactly how much you should be having, and you know exactly where you are for the day and how much you have to go. Now, once you're getting an adequate amount of protein, carbs and fat make up the rest of the ratios. So all three, again, are very important. So why do we want to do this? Let's talk about why this is such an awesome way to eat. Now, this is going to be a little bit, confusing maybe at first. It might kind of blow your mind a little bit just because this is very different from the way most people think. But I'm going to make a statement and just have an open mind. Your body cannot tell the difference between a carb from a Pop-Tart and a carb from a vegetable. It just really can't. Physiologically, a carb is a carb. So, I know you're thinking, wait, Beth, a Pop-Tart is a Pop-Tart. It has so much sugar, it's processed, has freaking sprinkles on it. There's no way that it can be compared to a vegetable. I get that. I totally do. I know on a food-by-food basis, some are definitely more beneficial to your body. But one thing I really want you to take out of your vocabulary is the notion of a good food and a bad food. When you have this mindset that certain foods are dirty foods, that they're off limits, you are setting yourself up for failure on a psychological level. Because you make one mistake a day, and you're like, well, I might as well go eat a whole pizza and 2 more donuts, and it just goes on. And honestly, once you put something off limits, you want it. That is just the way it is. So when we just tell ourselves a food is a food, then it just kind of takes away that temptation a little bit. So I'm going to teach you that you can eat anything you want within parameters, and you can be completely successful in your goals. Bodybuilders do this all the time, and they are some of the leanest people on earth. So this works. Now, I made little notes so I don't miss anything. Okay, so when you're tracking macros, like I was saying, nothing is off limits. If you want to have a treat every single day, you can. It just needs to fit into the macronutrients that I give you. So I'm going to give you a certain amount of carbs, proteins, and fats every day. And you just need to eat foods that fit into those so you reach the calorie goal that you have for that day. And So as long as something fits within those parameters, you can have it. This technique, this way of eating, is called IIFYM, and that stands for if it fits your macros. So it's exactly what it sounds like. This is huge in the fitness world. Now, it gets a bad rap sometimes because people use it as an excuse to literally eat junk all day long. They can have 6 donuts and 7 Twinkies and, it all fits in your macros, so we're good. But I do not recommend this. I told you a little bit earlier about micronutrients. And one thing I didn't mention is fiber. Fiber doesn't have calories, but it is wildly important for your body. I mean, it helps with digestion, it helps you feel full, it just does so much that you need to make sure that you're getting an adequate amount of fiber. So I suggest that you follow what's called the 80-20 rule. This is very simple. 80% of the foods you eat should be healthy foods. Sweet potatoes, chicken breast, brown rice, white rice, things that are generally considered healthy foods. Now, this is going to be a little tangent, but notice I didn't say clean foods, because what the heck is a clean food? I hear this all the time. Oh, I just eat clean. I don't want to track. I just eat clean. So, if you ask somebody to define what clean eating is, they can't really tell you. Take fruit, for example. Fruit is chock full of micronutrients. So many vitamins, it has fiber in it. It's a fruit, it's natural, right? But what about all the sugar? What about organic versus inorganic? Everybody will give you a different definition of what clean eating is, and therefore it just gets stricter and stricter and stricter until you are just not eating a wide enough variety of food. You're miserable, you're not living your life. It's really just not a very sustainable way of eating because we don't live in a world where only clean foods exist. We live in a world of fast food and sugar and delicious things that we should not overeat, but we should allow ourselves occasionally to have things that feed our soul. So that was a little rant, but we do not do clean eating, we do healthy eating with balance, if that makes sense. So now, when it comes to this 20% that we're eating, it can be anything you want as long as it's fitting your macronutrients. Chocolate squares after a meal. If you need like a little dessert after every meal, get a Hershey's bar, break it up and eat some of it, after your meal, and you can fit it in. It is entirely possible and it won't affect your goals. It'll just take away from something else that you're eating, but it's more sustainable that way. So how do you make sure that you're hitting your numbers every day? I personally have 2 approaches to this. I have tried both with success, so it really has to do with what feels easier for you. No matter what, when you start out, it's going to be new. It's going to be kind of confusing. You're going to need to buy a food scale. They are not expensive on Amazon. Just find any food scale, and then you basically just need like measuring cups. And one way to do this is go on Excel, just a regular spreadsheet, and start inputting foods that you eat on a daily basis usually, and put in their macronutrient profile. So, for example, you like Gala apples, put a Gala apple, and there are websites, calorieking.com, I can't think of any more, but just search it on Google, and it will tell you the macronutrient profile of how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs and fats. And you just put that on Excel, put it for all the foods that you eat on a regular basis. It's kind of time consuming at first, but trust me, it makes it a breeze after that first hour or 2 that it takes you. And then make several different days of full eating. So have a day where you eat a certain combination of foods that adds up to your macronutrient profile, and then make another day that's different foods so you get variety and you don't get sick of it. And all of these days are going to add up to the same macro ratios that I give you. And it doesn't really matter what foods they are as long as it adds up to it, like I said. So you can make 10 of these, and then you can just cycle through the days, and that way you know exactly that you're hitting your numbers. You're not worrying throughout the day. Now, if you like to kind of just go with the flow, there are apps like MyFitnessPal. I'm going to introduce you to one called My Macros Plus. These apps are awesome. They let you track as you go. And it's kind of allows you to just kind of live life. So if you want to go out to Chili's for dinner, you can. You know how many macros you have left for the day. You can choose a meal based on that. And so it's kind of just a meal by meal approach where if something sounds good, you eat it and you track it, and then whatever's left you can eat. So that is another option. Whatever feels like it'll work for you, you can try both of them. Now, just to wrap this up, this is a very sustainable way of eating. You do not need to track all the time. I'm not telling you that for the rest of your life you are going to be tracking your macros. But it is an excellent tool to have when you are trying to reach a goal. So if your goal is fat loss, you should be tracking your macros. And if your goal is to build muscles, you can try tracking your macros. You will know exactly what you're eating, and you know the exact effect it's going to have on your body, and it takes all the guesswork out. This is a very, very simple in the sense that it doesn't take a lot of work to do this. It's a very simple way of eating, and you don't feel like you're starved. You don't feel like you can't enjoy your life. You can enjoy a holiday even while you're tracking macros because you just make room for the things that you want to eat in moderation. So you're just not stuck eating chicken and broccoli and asparagus. If that's your thing, you go for that, but it is not for most people. So, and just one final point, based on the information that you give me, I'm going to give you the best possible ratio of macronutrients. But understand that everybody is an individual. Everybody is going to respond a little bit differently. And so my job as your trainer and as your coach is to make it work for you. So we're going to start you out at the best knowledge that I have to give you, and then we're going to see how you respond. And it might take a couple weeks until we hit that sweet spot because, like I said, you are a unique individual. So together we will find out what is going to be best for you. So just know that it's a process, trust the process, and just enjoy it. It's going to be fun, and it's a whole new way of looking at food. You look at food as fuel. You don't look at it as something that dominates your life. So I'm really excited to get started. If you have any questions, text me, call me, email me, and I hope you guys have a good day. See you later.